final weekend with us here at St. Hubert, I had the privilege today to speak with Deacon David Jameson and ask him some questions about his experience leading up to his ordination. So we're here today with a very special edition of Q&A with our very own seminarian, Deacon David Jameson. You have another gift, another talent too. You're an artist. I brought your mass cards, your ordination cards that you created. They're beautiful.
Thanks.
There's no doubt this is more than just plain art. This is gorgeous. Where did this talent come from?
Well, I grew up taking art lessons. My parents kind of recognized in me a desire to draw and paint and those things. So I think I was about the age of 8, 9, or 10, probably 9, I think, when they started helping me get art lessons. So I grew up drawing and painting. I never really got into oils, but acrylics, pastels, of course charcoal for drawing and things like that. So, and actually my major initially in college was fine art.
Really?
I was going to become I wanted to become a computer. It was just right at the beginning. Toy Story had just come out.
Sure.
I remember the big movies that were really important to me were like Jurassic Park, Toy Story. These movies that were obviously CGI heavily used. So I really wanted to be a computer animator. So that was my initial passion.
Again, we make plans and God laughs. Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, even in the first, I think it was the first semester I went off to Israel. I went off to Malta on a mission trip to evangelize Catholics. That was my first mission trip, and that's actually where I first encountered Christ in the Eucharist. And that's why the ring that I wear, it has the Maltese cross there, and that's because that was the first time that I encountered Christ in the Eucharist. And then the other cross there is the Jerusalem cross, and that's because that was where I made that decision to begin the sermon of priesthood, like to move forward in that.
You chose 2 Bible verses. Actually, you chose 4 verses on the back of your ordination cards. 2 of them stood out to me. The first was a verse from 1 Peter, chapters 1 through 4, which speaks about tending to God's flocks. And the other is from Colossians, verse 1, chapter 24 through 29, which speaks about ministering in accordance with God's stewardship. I found both of these very meaningful, but they were meaningful to me in my way. But you chose them. What about these stand out to you? Why did you choose them? And how do they inform your ministry?
Sure. I would say initially let's talk about the one from 1 Peter. I think the one from 1 Peter stuck out for a couple of different reasons. First, during internship, I remember there was a moment where, I realized being in seminary formation, we've spent a lot of time talking about and thinking about and praying about being a priest and having that desire to be a priest. And one of the things that happened on internship was there was this moment where I just kind of realized, I remember just saying and not really thinking about it, it just kind of came out in prayer, yes, Lord, I want to be a priest, but I want to be a pastor more, not more, but I want to be a pastor too, I'm going to cry. I want to be a pastor, somebody that's able to lead the people, that's able to provide spiritual care for the people. And there was this realization that I spent so much time thinking about being a priest that, the Lord was giving me this desire to be a pastor. So that was a part of that, and why I chose that image of Christ, the Good Shepherd, Christ carrying this lamb. It's actually kind of based on this olive wood statue that I found in Israel. I wanted to buy a statue there that was Jesus holding a lamb, and so I kind of based it on that image, that position with him holding this lamb and caring for it and tending to it. I think also having grown up seeing my father being a pastor, I think I'm gonna cry. That's okay. So
it's good.
It's good. So
it's good.
My dad, I've always been confident of his love. his love for the family, his love for us, but to see his heart for the people that he's been called to care for at the different churches. I think part of this is my desire to be like my father in that way, to be a pastor like that. So that's why I chose that image. That's why I wanted to put. I kind of made these two images, and I couldn't choose between one or the other, so I decided to do two cards, one with one and one with the other. The other card with Jesus holding the Eucharist, that's kind of like Holy Thursday, and it's that moment of take this and eat of it. He's blessing the bread. He took it, he broke it, he blessed it, and he gave it, right? So it's that moment where he's breaking it, kind of like his body also being broken for us and giving himself to us. I chose the passage there about I rejoice in my sufferings for your sake. I chose that passage because, one, as a Protestant, as an evangelical, as a Baptist, this passage, we go to great theological, doctrinal gymnastics as a, evangelical Protestant trying to interpret what this verse means. There's a lot of different explanations for what it could mean, and nothing ever really rang true until I became Catholic. And it was talking about, that I rejoice in my sufferings for your sake, and in my flesh I'm filling up what is lacking in Christ's afflictions. Like, what could be lacking in Christ's afflictions, right? Well, it's the sufferings and the afflictions that we're going to endure for his sake. We're joining those to him. It's this idea of redemptive suffering. So that was important to me. So that's why I included that. But as that passage continues, Christ in you, the hope of glory, right? It is he whom we proclaim, admonishing everyone and teaching everyone with all wisdom, that we may present everyone perfect in Christ. For this is what I labor for and struggle for, in accord with the exercise of his power working within me. I just felt that it really kind of summarized beautifully what the role of the priest is, what the role of the pastor is, in helping bringing Christ's sanctification, Christ's salvation to others, so that they can be presentable. That's why we labor, so that they can meet Christ, encounter him, and be brought into his life through him, through us, through the work that we do. So,
and what stood out to me on this one, more than anything else, is the light source that's on this, where the light is reflecting from. And as I looked at this painting, this picture you've created, the light's coming from the bread.
Right.
Is that intentional?
Right. Yeah, it was intentional. I wasn't sure if people were going to be able to kind of pick up on that. It was. I don't think it was intentional at first, but as I was painting it, that's kind of what came out of it. Was just this idea that, again, this is Holy Thursday. This is the very first time that Christ has said, "This is my body." And so speaking into that, which the priest does, right? Every Mass, he breaks it and
he looks into it.
He says those words
right.
of Christ. So it's the idea that Christ was imparting his very self there. And it's this kind of mystical moment where he is making himself available even then in the
and he knows what's going to happen. He knows what's coming.
Right.
And he breaks this open.
And so it's kind of like that emanation of Christ's presence being there.
And again, I would encourage our viewers, get on the website, look at them. They're gorgeous.
Thank you, yeah.
This one just really spoke to me.
That one speaks the most to me.
Yeah.
But the other one speaks to me too for different reasons, though. For this one, for the Good Shepherd, it very much was. I know they're both black backgrounds, but really for this one, it was the idea that Christ is coming forth out of the darkness, out of the struggles that we have, the difficulties that we experience. Christ's presence is there with us, shepherding us, guiding us. So that's why it's him emerging out of the darkness with. So that was what was intended there. But they're both meaningful to me.
Beautiful.
When my parents bought the chalice for me, and it was really important to them that they inscribe some verses, and that was actually the passage that my father and mother picked out. It's 1 Peter 5, 1 through 4. So that's another reason why I picked it. It's because it was just such an important, meaningful verse for them, kind of passing on to me the mission that a priest and a
What
pastor
a
has.
beautiful, loving, God-filled gesture.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. It's been a privilege to see you grow and develop here.
Thank you.
And it almost feels like sending forth our parish child.
Thanks.
Don't be offended by that.
No, I'm just such a big child.
A big kid?
I'm a big person. Yeah.
Thank you very much. God bless you in your ministry,
Thank you.
and may you be that shepherd that God called you to be.
Thank you. Please pray for me. I'll be praying for all of you.
Thank you.